Okay, so normally when you want to rotate an object in a circle, you probably use this method, which is to duplicate your original object, then move it away, and then you're going to click on both objects, duplicate, and then rotate however many times you want. Now, in this case, I'm going to rotate it 20 degrees, and I'm just going to continue pressing Ctrl D, and now you have a perfect symmetrical object. So now I'm going to use the same method to rotate these objects, but this time by 24 degrees. Now, look what happens now. The objects are overlapping at both ends, and this is no longer symmetrical. So the reason behind all this mess is that when you use this method, you are not actually rotating 360 degrees full circle, but you're rotating 180 degrees a half circle. So when you rotated an object 20 degrees, it was perfectly symmetrical because number 20 is a 180 divisor, and it is also a 360 divisor. But when you rotated it 224 degrees, well, it wasn't symmetrical any longer because 24 is not a 180 divisor. So that's how we created all that mess. Now, these numbers are pretty much the same, with the exception of 8, 40, 72, and 120. So overall, it may not be a massive issue for you, but if you want to, for example, make an object with 3 sides, in which case you would have to use 120 degree rotation, or if you want to make an object with 5 arms, when you would have to use 72-degree rotation. Now, it's not something you can do using this method. So let me explain the method we'll be using today. Now, you have your main object that you will be duplicating and rotating, and you want to drag a random object onto your work plane, and then you want to align it just down the center, and then you drag that random object all the way down below your main object. And now grab both of them, duplicate, and rotate. Now I'm rotating 24 degrees, which didn't work last time, but look at this now. This is perfectly symmetrical because we rotated in a 360 degree circle. Now you can play around with this method. If you move the objects further apart, you have a bit different result. Like there's a bigger hole in the middle. You can rotate it by different numbers. You can bring the objects closer together so the middle parts are overlapping. I mean, there's so many different possibilities here. Okay, so I'm going to start by creating a tetrahedron, a three-sided pyramid. So you have to drag down a cone and then remove the amount of sides from 9 to 3. And this is a tetrahedron, one of my favorite shapes for this kind of project. I'm going to change the dimensions a little bit. I just want them to be even and preferably numbers that can be divided by 2 or 5, just so that it's easier to maneuver it later on. And now I'm just going to align it to create the basic shape. I'm going to color a few panels. different colors just so that it's easier to see the border later on. Okay, and then placing it upright, 90 degrees. Now this is pretty thin. The walls are pretty thin on this. So if you're making a container or if you're making a solid object, you need to create a base. Okay, so this is the best method to create a base of an object that is not symmetrical or has a unique shape. You want to duplicate this object and then drag it to the side, and then you want to elongate it as much as you possibly can, like so. And I'm going to drag down a hollow, enlarge it so it covers this large object, and I'm going to align it. And now you align this base with your hollow. See, so it's, yeah, the walls are touching. And now I'm just going to move the hollow away approximately 0.1, 0.2 millimeters. So you end up with this teeny tiny sliver. And now group it together and check the measurements of the sliver and the object that you took it from. And it's the same measurements. So now you have to align it and center it, and it's a perfect fit. So now I'm going to rotate this object in a circle, and as before, drag down a random object, click on both of them and center them. Now you want the random object to be well below the main object. Now click on both of them, duplicate and rotate until the green and yellow triangles are touching and there is no gaps. Now I've rotated it by 54 degrees, which is not a number that we can use because it is not a 360 divisor. So what I'm going to do is go back and move the objects further away from each other. Now I'm going to duplicate and rotate again, and this time we have 42 degrees. So at this point you want to go with 40 degrees or 45 because those are the closest numbers, and I'm going to aim for 45. So bring the objects closer together by a few millimeters and check again. And this time we have 44 degrees, so again I'm going to move the objects a few millimeters closer, and now finally we have 45, but there's a teeny tiny gap between the green and the yellow, so I'm going to bring it just a little bit further, just a little bit closer, and now again duplicate and rotate and check again if they are touching at 45 degrees, and they are perfect. There is no gap, they are not overlapping, so I'm just going to continue pressing duplicate until we have it in a circle. Okay, so I'm going to delete the random objects, the cylinders, and change the color of the main object. And now it's just a matter of clicking on all those triangles and duplicating them and then dragging them upwards to elongate this object. and continue clicking duplicate until you've reached your desired height. Now I'm just going to shape the base, and then I'll do the same thing with the top. And I'm going to place a circle, a cylinder in the middle, and use it to fill in that gap to create a solid object. This is just a matter of aligning everything, centering it, and making sure it fits well. And then I'm just going to shape the top. And there you have it, your geometrical solid shape.